What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Neighborhood Podcast. I am 50% of the podcast, Kevin Valentin.
And I'm the other half of the podcast. My name is Kyle Dabro. Kevin, what do we have on the agenda for now?
Dude, we got to talk about this unfortunate ending to the New York Knicks season. What a year they had. What a resilient resurgence they had from the position that they were in last season to now. From the offseason that they had projected to have the potential of signing of KD and Kyrie to getting nobody. It ended up being an incredible season for them. RJ Barrett really came out and showed that he could assist this team. Julius Randle winning most improved player. Derrick Rose showing he still had a lot left in this tank, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, coming up short this postseason, losing to Atlanta 4-1 in terms of the series. Atlanta wins and closes the series out 103-89 in the Garden. And I'm just looking at this Knicks team, man, and I just feel like over the last three games that the Atlanta Hawks dominated, and the main circled era of issue is Trae Young. They just could not stop him in any facet of the word, whether that was on the defensive end or whether that was stopping him from, facilitating or, really making it difficult for him. He didn't shoot the best from the field, but he did make up for that a lot of times at the free throw line. So it seemed like the roles kind of reversed after game two. The Hawks found a way to lock down, obviously blowing out the Knicks in the last two games by over 15 each. So you kind of just look at this and you're like, well, New York has a lot to build on. And I just want to ask you, what are your thoughts on this series ending the way that it did? And do you believe that this could have had a different outcome if the Knicks maybe had a little bit more of a veteran presence outside of Derrick Rose?
Yeah, maybe. But all in all, the Atlanta Hawks were just a better team. They were by far the better team in this series simply because they were just having a better offensive out. They had a better offensive output than what the Knicks were able to put on the board in really the last three games. I mean, after game two, the series was split 1-1, and then Atlanta just proceeded to just roll over the Knicks in three straight games, and in convincing fashion in the last two in particular. So you mentioned the fact that the Knicks really couldn't defend Trae Young, and it didn't really matter who the Knicks put on him, whether it was Reggie Bullock or Derrick Rose or Julius Randle. If he got switched on the Trae, it's just they couldn't combat his handles. And Trae Young has some of the best handles in the league, and he's able to gain separation, get a little bit of space, and knock down those jumpers. I mean, in game five, he had 36 points. Went bonkers. Granted, he didn't have the best night shooting, but was able to get it done. And then when you look at the rest of the box score, look, Clint Capella, he had 14. DeAndre Hunter, he had 15. John Collins had 13. Bogdanovich had 9.
Gallinari had one though.
But from the starters, when you're getting that good of an offensive output, I'm not going to complain about that. And with the Knicks, granted, I think Julius Randle, he had a little bit of a better offensive performance in this game compared to some of the games that took place earlier in the series. But 8 of 21 in an elimination game, scoring 23 points is not going to cut it. Julius Randle was the most improved player of the year. And I think the bright lights of the playoffs maybe were a little bit too bright for him in this series. And he struggled for the most part in this series against Atlanta. Atlanta did a very good job defensively of making him uncomfortable and putting him in situations where he couldn't exploit the matchups that Atlanta had against him. So you got to give Atlanta a lot of credit for that. And then when you look at the rest of the roster, Reggie Bullock was inconsistent at times. Derrick Rose had some flash moments earlier in the series, but kind of tailed off in the second half of the series. RJ Barrett, up and down. Some games he looked great. I mean, in game 5, he was okay. 5 of 14, scored 17 points, but those aren't earth-shattering numbers. So I think all in all, when I look at this series, yes, Atlanta was by far the better team, but I think the playoff inexperience that you saw from the Knicks team is what stood out to me. And it did kind of reflect on the defensive side of the ball as well, just because the Knicks are one of the best defensive teams from this regular season, but it did not really show in the first round of the playoffs against Atlanta. And Atlanta took them to the wood shop in the last 2 games, like I mentioned. So, all in all, if you're a Knicks fan, look, this is the first time that they made the playoffs in 8 years, and they were able to get 1 game in their first playoff series since 2013. There's a lot to build on with this team. When it comes to the Knicks, I'm looking forward to what they have in the near future, because I think this team can bounce back and still be a competitive team in the Eastern Conference.
No, without a doubt, especially when your 2 pieces are under the age of what? What's Julius, like under 25?
Julius is in like his mid-20s.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you have young superstars like Julius and RJ kind of leading the way, it does make it a little easier for a team that's up and coming like this with a relatively young roster to kind of build around this experience. So I'm hoping that they're able to keep this core relatively close together, maybe bring back Derrick Rose and some other key pieces. So we'll see how the offseason tends to go, or attempts to go for them going forward. But it is good to see the Knicks back in the playoffs again and, do at least some kind of damage. They showed that they can compete, but the Hawks were just the better team, like you said, overall in this series, and they do move on to the next round. So,
yeah. That's all I got from here. I mean, fun series, but Atlanta just overpowered the Knicks. I was actually surprised that it ended up ending in 5. I had the Knicks winning this in 6. So
I had the Knicks winning it in 5. So
I mean, I was off by a mile on this one. So I got to give Atlanta a lot of credit. They balled out and they proved me wrong. So I got to take that one. So it just is what it is.
Yeah, we're both going to take that one on the chin. But, we have plenty of playoff mistakes to make in terms of predictions. So with that being said, guys, that's going to wrap up this segment for us at the Neighborhood Podcast. I don't know why I keep having brain farts and saying the other podcast names, but it is what it is. That's everything for us. Like we've always said, if you guys aren't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Like, comment on any video you feel like. We are more than welcome and open to, hearing what you guys have to say. If you guys have a different take, more than willing to go back and forth with you, entertain it, talk about it if we find it appropriate. It is what it is. So we will see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.
Yep. See you guys later.